In 2019, food safety testers opened a container of grated parmesan. 30% of it wasn't cheese, it was wood pulp. Cheese is the most counterfeited food on Earth, and the fraud runs deeper than most people realize. One of these cheeses predates the Roman Empire. One sued 26 countries and won. And one has been aging in the same cave in southern France for 600 years. Parmigiano Reggiano, the most imitated cheese on Earth. Every wheel must be made within 4 provinces in northern Italy, the same way it has been made since the 13th century. 400 liters of milk, 20 days in salt, at least 12 months of aging. The white crystals inside are not salt, they are tyrosine, an amino acid released as proteins break down. More crystals mean more time, and that is exactly what counterfeiters cannot fake. Here's what should make you angry. Outside Europe, the word parmesan means nothing. Any producer can use it. In 2019, American regulators found pre-grated parmesan products containing up to 30% wood pulp filler, one of the most regulated foods on Earth, and one of the most faked. But that's not the full story, because the most misunderstood cheese is the one everybody thinks they already know. Mozzarella. Would you believe me if I told you that no one has ever actually tasted the real thing? True mozzarella di bufala uses milk from water buffaloes, twice the fat content of cow's milk. That fat difference creates a richness and liquid center that the cow's milk version simply cannot replicate. What the rest of the world calls mozzarella is fior di latte, cheaper, blander, and the default for every commercial pizza on Earth. It behaves completely differently when melted. Real bufala is sold within 48 hours. After that, the texture breaks down. The vacuum-sealed block shipped across oceans is a copy of a copy. A $30 billion global market. And almost none of that money is for the original. And here's where things shift. The next cheese was declared the finest in France by an emperor in the year 774. Brie. Charlemagne himself called it the king of cheeses. 1,200 years later, most of what's sold under that name tastes nothing like what he ate. Authentic Brie de Meaux and Brie de Melun must be made from raw unpasteurized milk. A living mold rind digests the cheese from the outside in, transforming the interior from chalky to molten. Here's the catch. There's a window. There is about a 4-day window where the cheese is exactly right. Too early, the cheese ends up being too bland and firm. Too late, and it smells and tastes like ammonia. In the United States, pasteurization is required for cheeses aged under 60 days. That single rule eliminates the biological complexity that defines authentic Brie. What's in most American grocery stores is a different product wearing the same name. At the Congress of Vienna in 1815, 20 nations awarded Brie de Meaux first prize among all foods. The wheel they tasted would be unrecognizable today. That's where everything changes, from royalty to the cheese copied by every country on Earth. Cheddar, named after a Somerset village. No meaningful legal protection on the name whatsoever. The original method is called cheddaring. Curds are cut, stacked, and flipped for hours while they expel whey. This compresses the texture into the clean, crumbly structure that defines good cheddar. Industrial producers skip most of it. And the orange color? Completely artificial. Real cheddar is ivory white. The dye, annatto, from the achiote tree, was added historically to fake richness when the milk was poor. It does nothing for flavor, but the expectation stuck so hard that most people wouldn't recognize a real cheddar by sight. Properly aged farmhouse cheddar, 3 or 4 years, splinters cleanly with calcium lactate crystals and a flavor that stacks sharpness, fruit, and grassiness at once. But the real split happens next. A cheese that took 26 countries to court, feta. The cheese that sued the continent and won. In 2002, the European Court of Justice ruled that feta can only be produced in specific regions of Greece from Greek sheep and goat's milk. At least 70% sheep's milk, brined for months. Denmark, Germany, and over 20 other countries were making feta at the time. They had to stop. They challenged the ruling. Greece won again. The cheese itself is at least 2,000 years old. Homer's Odyssey describes the Cyclops making a proto-feta, sheep's milk cheese cured in a cave. The word appeared in Greek records in the 17th century, but the product is ancient. Bulgarian white cheese, French brebis, and American block feta, all made from different methods and different milk. They do share a category, but they do not share a taste. But that's not even the most extreme part. The most produced cheese on Earth is one most people never think about: Gouda. More than half of all cheese produced globally is some form of Gouda. I'll say it again: 50 to 60%. It became the world's cheese for one reason: it aged exceptionally well on ships. The trade routes came to the cheese. Now, aged Gouda is where the real story lives. Young Gouda, mild and soft at 2 months. At about 18 months, it's firm and sweet, with crystals forming. At 36 months and beyond, the cheese becomes something else entirely. Dense caramel brown, intensely sweet and savory, rivaling the finest aged Parmigiano. The Netherlands still produces wheels aged up to 60 months. Bourgogne Gouda, made from raw milk on traditional farms, stands with the best cheeses of Italy and France. Roquefort, the oldest legally protected cheese on Earth. 600 years. One cave. In 1411, King Charles VI gave the village of Roquefort-sur-Soulzon a legal monopoly. Only cheese aged in the Combalou caves of southern France can be called Roquefort. That protection has never been broken. The blue veins come from Penicillium roqueforti, a mold that lives naturally in those limestone caves. Wheels are pierced with up to 48 needles. Oxygen channels feed the mold, driving blue-green veins through the interior. Producers have tried to replicate the conditions elsewhere. It never works. Something in those cave walls, which includes centuries of biological activity, affects the final product in ways nobody can fully explain. So this means that other producers surely can copy the process, but they cannot copy the cave. This cheese is sharp, salt-forward, and intensely complex. It has a creamy sheep's milk base counterbalanced by aggressive veining. And here's a detail that matters: dissolve it into a pan sauce, and it transforms completely. But the real surprise is the next one, the newest cheese on this entire list. Burrata, invented in 1956, by accident. A man trying to use up scraps created a global obsession. Lorenzo Bianchino Cieppa, a cheesemaker in Puglia, had leftover mozzarella curds. He wrapped the scraps with fresh cream inside a pulled mozzarella shell, tied it at the top, and sold it. Pure thrift. The name comes from burro, which means butter in Italian. Cut it open and the inside pours out. Shredded mozzarella soaked in heavy cream. The contrast between the firm shell and the liquid center is the entire concept. Fresher means runnier. Like mozzarella di bufala, it deteriorates in days. What's shipped internationally is a photograph of the original. For 30 years, burrata barely left Puglia. The global explosion didn't happen until the 2000s. It became an entire worldwide food obsession, less than 25 years old. But this is where things change. The next cheese predates Rome itself. Pecorino Romano, a cheese older than the Roman Empire, and mostly made in Sardinia, not Rome. Pecorino comes from pecora, which is the Italian word for sheep. Roman writers, including Pliny the Elder, documented this exact cheese in the 1st century AD. Each legionnaire received 27 grams per day as a standard field ration. Can you believe that a standing army of hundreds of thousands was fueled partly by sheep's milk cheese? That's not trivia. That's how empires were sustained. And here's the twist. Despite the name, production shifted to Sardinia in the late 1800s when Roman producers relocated for access to the island's vast sheep herds. The city in the name is not where it's actually made today. The result is sharper and saltier than Parmigiano by a significant margin. Swap one for the other in a recipe and you change everything. This is not a substitution. It's a different weapon entirely. Which brings us to the most flavor-complex natural food ever documented. Comté, 83 distinct flavor notes in one cheese. No other food on Earth undergoes this level of systematic documentation. From the Franche-Comté region of eastern France, the cows graze on mountain pasture where the plant composition shifts with every season. What they eat transfers directly into the milk, and the milk directly into the cheese. You cannot separate the landscape from the flavor. Specialists called affineurs do nothing but age Comté. Minimum 4 months, premium wheels go to 36. And here's where it gets interesting. 2 wheels from the same dairy, aged by different affineurs, can taste completely different. The same starting point, radically different results. The wheels are enormous, up to 53 kilograms. And yet, every variable, from the grass to the aging cellar, is governed by rules decades old. The production is at a massive scale with microscopic control. That level of precision is rare. But let's dive into what's more rare: a cheese that cannot be destroyed by fire. Halloumi, the only cheese that can be grilled without melting, and the subject of a 20-year international war over its name. Traditional halloumi comes from Cyprus, a mixture of sheep's and goat's milk, cooked in its own way at high temperatures. That heat restructures the proteins so the cheese holds its shape under direct flame. Throw it on a grill, and I promise it will not collapse. The exterior chars. The interior stays firm and slightly squeaky. It looks simple and the chemistry is precise. Cyprus applied for EU protected status, but the island has been politically divided since 1974. The Republic of Cyprus claimed halloumi. The Turkish Cypriot North claimed hellim, which is the same cheese but with a different name. This resulted in 2 whole decades of dispute. The PDO was finally granted in 2021, covering the whole island. Exports have increased over 300% since 2000. The UK imports more halloumi per capita than anywhere on Earth. And yet, none of it compares to what happens when the landscape is so extreme that the cheese cannot be replicated anywhere else. Manchego. Made in La Mancha, the same region Cervantes set Don Quixote. In the novel, Quixote eats manchego with olives and cured ham. Spanish tapas bars serve the exact same plate today. 4 centuries have passed, and the same combination exists today. Manchega sheep have grazed this dry, hot plateau for over 2,000 years. Extreme heat, scarce water, minimal vegetation. That hardship produces milk that is richer and fattier than standard sheep's milk. The landscape is built into the cheese. The crosshatch pattern on the rind traces back to molds woven from esparto grass. Now replicated in plastic, but still the visual fingerprint of origin. And here's the part that changes everything. Independent testing confirms that manchego, made in La Mancha, produces flavor compounds that cannot be replicated with identical manchega milk outside the region. Move the milk, you change the cheese. The land is literally in the flavor. That's measurable. And it leads to the final twist. The cheese everyone remembers wrong. Gruyere, the cheese the world associates with large round holes. And this cheese officially has no holes at all. Gruyere is Swiss, produced in the canton of Fribourg since at least 1115 AD. Raw cow's milk, minimum 5 months aging, strict geographic zone. Genuine Gruyere has few to no holes. The occasional small ones are called eyes. And excessive eye formation is considered a defect. The holes belong to Emmental. Decades of American marketing collapsed the two into one image. What most people picture is, in many cases, not Gruyere at all. In 2021, the EU and the United States entered a formal trade dispute over whether American producers could keep using the name without geographic restriction. The US won. Switzerland filed a formal objection. Gruyere that's aged for 12 months, called reserve, runs through dairy, fruit, salt, and a nuttiness tied directly to the alpine pasture. The milk goes from farm to dairy within 18 hours. Speed is part of the recipe. And that's the thread running through all 13. If you want every type of wine broken down the exact same way, that video is on screen right now.